Are fairies real? I don't believe they are. But I do believe in the things that make people want to believe in fairies. The idea that there are still things out there that we do not understand, something still waiting to be discovered. As a Bible believer, I know that it is true that there is nothing new under the sun, and that all things are known to one, our holy God. Yet there are still so many things yet to discover, and I think He takes joy in watching us discover them. I also don't promote magic, yet I do believe in the things and promote the things that make an experience feel magical. In using the word magical, I think I'm really just trying to define things that are out of the ordinary, not mundane, not the same things I see every day. However, anything can be magical or whimsical or special. It's up to me to see them as such. My day cannot always be filled with things that are not ordinary, not the same things I see every day. As my children grow and become more independent, I am gaining more time to read and write and explore. But my hours are still not completely my own. I must change my perspective and choose to see ordinary things as amazing. When I turned 40, I freaked out a little, thinking I'd wasted so much time and my best days were behind me. It didn't help that the world went into lockdown panic mode just a few months later, but I definitely experienced a few years of foundering, trying to find my feet as my life was changing so fast. In addition to the stuff we all experienced during that time, my life saw a lot of change. The death of parents, 3 adult children moving out. I became a mother-in-law and then a grandmother. I did go through a bit of an identity crisis. I didn't read much. I didn't study. I didn't research. I didn't travel. I had little interest in the things that once fascinated me and made me wonder. One day I turned on the 1995 Pride and Prejudice series and cried my way through cutting up the costume dresses that I'd worn to the Jane Austen reenactments in Bath in years prior. I turned them all into work skirts. The world was coming to an end. I might as well prepare for it. I spent about 4 years with my Bible, my journal, my fear, and little else. I don't regret how close I got to the Lord during that time. He taught me a lot as I voraciously consumed His Word. But after a while, I realized I was missing one important theme in my life: creativity. With creativity comes wonder, imagination, curiosity. These things inspire investigation, adventure, innovation, nurturing, and discovery. I'd come to a place of seeing the world as evil, angry, and dark, and a place to escape from. I'd stopped seeing the beauty and the wonder and the whimsy and the magic of it all things that our Creator put here for us to enjoy during our time here. Lately, I've been working my way back and being even more purposeful than before. Life is long, and I don't want to miss a thing. It's been about a week since I finished this book, The Cottage Fairy Companion by Paola Merrill. I've been thinking about it all week and have written down several thoughts. I talked a little bit about it in my October mid-month reading wrap-up that I filmed a couple of days ago. However, I wanted to come on and really just make a whole video about the overall message of this book, but mostly about what I've learned over the years as someone much older than her, but very much like her in spirit. Little tangent before I do. People always ask about this above my head. What is that? When I sit out here on the porch. That is a wind chime that my mom gave me right before we left Eastern Oregon to move out here to Arkansas. And I have it out here on my porch. It's like pots and pans and, you know, it's like dishes and stuff. And that yellow is like a plate. They're all metal. And so when it's windy, they kind of clink together in a pretty sound. And it's just a unique take on a wind chime. So that's what that is. That's why I've got kitchenware hanging over my head. My daughters tell me that I was cottagecore before cottagecore was cool, and it's true. I have kind of always lived a cottage sort of life. Just everything from baking from scratch to decorating with things that I've made or that others have made, just like homemade things, decorating with things from outdoors. The way I dress is a little bit whimsy. I've made most of my own clothes for about 25 years now. And so I'm known for having, homespun sort of clothes, patterned skirts, and things with forest animals and, different plants and that sort of thing on the fabric. And I've just kind of made myself a homemade life. There's a lot of things in jars. There's a lot of animals peeking out of teacups on my shelves, and lots of books, and just kind of a whimsy, cottagey sort of life. My hobbies have always been grandma hobbies, sewing and baking and handicrafts, and my speech and my writing and my thinking can sometimes seem a little old-fashioned. For fans of the Cottage Fairy's channel, I am probably what she will be when she's 45. And I think that's why I can watch her channel and read her book and see so much younger me and feel so much hope for older her, right? The author of this book is probably somewhere in between my oldest two daughters in age. And in her earlier videos and also in her backstory in this book, she was in a very similar place to what I was in when I left university. I had a deep love and hunger for learning, but the system just left me feeling burnt out and very insecure. I wanted to live a life that valued self-education, but also thrived in abundant creativity. And it didn't take long for me to realize I was really the only one who could make that happen for me. All of the classes and professors and mentors, as well as all of the coffee shops and cute bistros and aesthetic libraries, were not going to make this happen for me. Many, many people over the years have asked me about my life that is very full of self-education and abundant creativity. They want to know how they can make it happen for themselves also. Virginia Woolf said it had something to do with having your own space, your own income, and that very few women could obtain that. And that may have been true for her time. But in my time, it's more about making your space your own and seeing that every resource you already have is a tool or a supply or an ingredient. And I do think that every woman can obtain it if she wants it. It's really about using what you have access to, thinking outside the box, and thinking for yourself. And oftentimes that does require us to get out of the system a little bit, or a lot. Not all of us can have a cottage in the woods. My cottage in the woods did not appear for 20 years. But we can make life magical and full of wonder in whatever situation we find ourselves. In the Cottage Fairy's book, she says, "The greatest thing that my cottage experience offered me was that I had never actually needed it. I truly believe that a beautiful life can only be cultivated through time and effort. It isn't so much dependent on where you live, but how. The hardest lesson I've ever learned is that happiness isn't a location." It requires a bit of self-sufficiency and assertiveness. No matter how much the people in your life love you and want to make your life amazing, you have to want it too. For the first couple of weeks of October, our family went on vacation. We got an Airbnb and we just hung out there. We were there for 10 days. We did leave a couple of days and have some field trips, but for the most part, we all hung out in that one house and did just some fun family building activities. One of the things we did was we had a cooking competition one night for making dinner. We based it on the TV show, right, where you're given certain ingredients and you've got to make something awesome out of it. And that's what I did. I gave both teams a platter of ingredients, and they had to use those things to make something great, something edible at least. No recipes, no real instruction. My husband took one team and I took the other. And so we were able to check the meat to make sure it was cooked all the way and that kind of thing. But for the most part, it was the kids, and they had to come up with something great out of the ingredients they were given. And I'm thinking about that and thinking about how life can hand us a whole platter of ingredients, and it's up to us to make something wonderful out of it. We can go searching and looking and obtaining other resources, and maybe that will work out for us, but maybe it won't. The only guarantee is what is actually on that platter, what we're actually given, and what we actually have access to. In order to find the kind of contentment that, this cottage life aesthetic seems to promise, we have to focus a whole lot more on what is actually on that platter we are given, and a little bit less on what is not. It doesn't mean we can't go looking, right? Doesn't mean we can't go trying to, improve and obtain and whatever. But if we don't understand the importance and the reality of what's on that platter and use it to our very best ability, we will feel unfulfilled, unsuccessful, searching. We will feel, melancholy and lonely and nostalgic because we're always searching instead of living right here, right now with what we have. I lived the first 33 years of my life in the Pacific Northwest. I grew up around mountains, water, wildlife, snowy winters, summers spent at the river. I was outdoors the majority of my childhood. Lots of camping and fishing and boating and exploring the woods. Lots of freedom to just adventure out into the world around me and see what was there. And then at 33, we moved to Arkansas. And Arkansas really does give Oregon a run for its money as far as beauty, but it's a different kind of beauty. It's a hot and humid beauty. It's a beauty where you can't roll around in the grass because you'll be covered in ticks and fleas and chiggers. It's hard to feel sort of friends with the wildlife when they are digging up your gardens and getting into your garbage cans, and they're just grasping, greedy little animals. Instead of the beautiful Snow White, one with the animals sort of scenes that exist in my imagination that probably weren't the reality of Oregon, right? And I often say I want to move back. I miss it. I build up these imaginations of how everything was so wonderful and so much better back there, if we could just go back. And I was thinking about that when I read the end of one of her chapters here in the Cottage Fairies book. This is what she says. Moving somewhere is never necessary to make great change in your life. If I still lived in the city, I would put more emphasis on my home environment and seek out more positive friendships while cutting myself off from people who influence me negatively. I would go to museums and free exhibitions, visit the library, join a book club. I would be growing my balcony or windowsill garden, no matter how small. Even if I only have a couple of flower pots and some low-light plants, I track the phases of the moon and the sun and seasons, create a spiritual practice, and enjoy what little patches of nature I could find, even if that meant now and then taking a bus ride to a nearby park or lake. We can connect with our world and beyond, no matter where we are. Sometimes it takes a bit of creativity. And I thought that was so good, right? She's not going to do all those things every day. Reality sets in and we realize we don't have the time and the money and the resources and to do all the things. But those are just some examples, right, of how she could make the best of her life wherever she was at. And she's right in the sentiment that trying to find greener grass somewhere, it's never going to be what you think it's going to be, right? You just have to water your own grass. You just have to make the place that you're in the beautiful place, the very best place. I read this book to be inspired to live my life this way again. But After reading it, I realized these last few really tough years have not killed whatever this is. They've actually just been a part of it. I didn't need to get back to living my life this way again. I needed to get back to seeing my life this way again. 28 years of living the cottage life, if you will, has not been without its ups and downs. These last few years have just been really difficult downs. But I was really close to letting them keep me down. And I think that is the message of Paola's book, especially to those who have lived a little bit longer. The downsides of life are going to come, but there is still beauty to be found. There's still creativity and education and magic to be found. And the emotions that these things continue to stir up even during our down times may not be the happiest. They may not stir up the same emotions that they do in our more up times. They may inspire melancholy and loneliness and nostalgia. And these things aren't bad. Some of the most beautiful writing, just life working through processes come out of these melancholy, lonely, nostalgic times. The deepest levels of appreciation, the biggest turnarounds often come out of those times. If we keep pursuing the ordinary, extraordinary things, keep creating, keep seeking beauty, keep seeking understanding, listening to the world a lot less and listening to God a whole lot more, one day our downside will turn upside down and we will start to experience healing. We'll see the healing we already experienced and didn't realize that that's what was going on. We'll start to feel fierce again. We'll start to feel passionately creative again. And we'll be able to see how wonder and imagination and creativity, curiosity, investigation, adventure, innovation, nurturing, and discovery cannot be things only reserved for the best of days. They are the very things that make every day complete. Whether it's a good day or a bad day, these are the things that make up a fulfilled day. I have this quote written down in my commonplace book. It says, "Art is not meant to be created in stolen moments only." We don't need a room of our own. We need to focus on making the rooms we are given our own. I haven't been able to easily answer that question for my friends when they ask, how can I make my life or home or kids or homeschool look like yours? It's up to each one of us to make the best use of what's on that platter. But first, you have to recognize there's a platter set before you in the first place.